poser. Didn't see you there. You here to talk about some Canadian-made stuff, eh? Well, fucking hey, let's crack a beer and chat. If you didn't know, Knifeware is a Canadian company. We started out in Calgary, Alberta, about 18 years ago. We're now in Toronto, Ottawa, Edmonton, and Vancouver as well. We ship worldwide, but we're based out of Canada. And since the early days, almost 20 years ago, we've tried to carry as many Canadian products as possible. We like stuff that's made locally. We like supporting local artisans and people doing their craft in our area. And while our focus has always been on Japanese kitchen knives, a lot of the complementary products we try to get out of Canada. And more recently, we started to get some Canadian-made knives. So we're celebrating this with Canadian Makers Month. For the next 4 weeks, we'll be focused on telling the stories of people that make incredible products in Canada. Today, I'm gonna run you through a whole bunch of my favorites. We've got 3 new product lines launching for you, and then gonna recap some of the favorites that we've had for a long time as well. At a cursory glance, you might be noticing that a lot of this stuff is made out of wood, and we are known for our wood here in Canada.
I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. I sleep all night and I work all day.
Canada's got a lot of trees and a big lumber business. And as a result, there's a lot of woodworkers. So about half of what we talk about today is gonna be made out of wood. All right, first up, we got Wood for Chef, and it does exactly what it says on the box. Wood for Chef have been operating in New Brunswick for just over 20 years, and for them, it's all about quality woodwork, stuff that's gonna stand up to a home kitchen, even a professional kitchen. It's a side grain board, which makes them more affordable than the fancy end grain boards, but they're really nice and thick, so they're really sturdy, they're gonna last a long time, they're not gonna warp easily. They've added rubber feet to the bottom to help with the stability of the board, keep some nice airflow underneath to keep them dry. And they beveled the bottom edge, makes them easier to pick up, makes them easier to fit a pan under so you can scrape food off into your pan or your sheet pan. And they also designed a custom tapas and steak plate for us. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's a wooden plate. Cutting on ceramic, if you have fancy steak knives, it's gonna dull your edges really quick. The wooden boards not only look cooler, but they're easier on your fancy steak knives. And they're just really pretty for serving. So if you're serving cheeses, tapas, anything like that, these are pretty great. You can get them individually, or you can get a set of 4 and save a few bucks. I've been using one of these in my home kitchen for a few months. We like to test stuff. We're very particular about wooden cutting boards. And side grain in particular, we're a little wary of, because some brands of side grain boards can warp easily, or they can be a little hard on your knives. But I love this. It looks beautiful on my counter. It's been great to my knives, and it's stayed nice and true throughout the lifespan of the board. Now, cutting boards are easy. There's a lot of people doing high quality woodwork in Canada. Knives, on the other hand, have been trickier for us. There's lots of knife makers in Canada, but a lot of them are smaller shops. They're making limited quantities of stuff, and they typically just sell directly to their customers. But we've always wanted to carry some Canadian-made knives, and in the last couple years, we finally found some folks to work with. First up is Hazaki. You've seen me talking about these before. Hazaki, the blades are made in Seki, Japan. The handles are made in Quebec. Woodwork really is Hazaki's specialty, and they've found a way to make kind of a cultural fusion by having Japanese blades, Canadian woodwork, best of both worlds. They also make some really cool knife display stands, like this guy. It's a double-sided magnetic stand. Now, while you could in some ways call that a Canadian knife, the blade is still made in Japan. So if you're looking for something 100% Canadian made, we've got a couple of options now. First up, we have Dice Knives. These guys are over on the West Coast. They're making blades out of ABL steel. It's steel that performs a lot like the Japanese steel we're used to, but it's relatively rugged. Now, we've had their boning knives and butchery knives for a good year now, and they make my favorite boning knife, hands down. But they also sent us some samples of their chef's knives. And after trying this guy at home for a while, I'm in love. This is seriously one of my favorite gyutos that I have now. I love the simple, elegant polish of this knife. It's understated, and it almost betrays the knife's performance because it performs like crazy. The handle is my favorite style of Japanese style handle. This is an octagonal shape, but they've made it a little narrower. So it's gonna fit smaller hands better. Still feels very comfortable in larger hands as well. Overall, it's got a really nice weight and balance. It's a little on the heftier side if you are comparing it to a Japanese knife, but I wouldn't call it heavy. They've got a nice amount of steel up in the spine, which keeps the blade nice and rigid, but it tapers down beautifully towards the edge. In normal words, that means that they've just ground it down so that it's thick up here and thin down here. That's gonna allow it to glide really smoothly through food, but it's not gonna be too flimsy. They've also thinned out the front end of the knife a little bit. So when you're getting into food and scoring with it, it's really precise and laser sharp. Okay, so I've actually used this knife a bit, but I'm gonna just kind of give you my impression of it. Let's try an overripe tomato first. Woo! Okay, that's awesome. I hadn't tried a new edge on one of these for a while, only the one that I've been using at home for a while. Nice. So, the reason I like to test on tomatoes is because if an edge is not sharp enough or it's too sharp, it's gonna skip across the skin of that tomato. This is in that Goldilocks zone where it's got a little bit of bite. Basically, the edge is just microscopically serrated and it's gonna bite into that tomato. It's gonna almost feel a tiny bit like you're using one of those serrated tomato knives, except you're not gonna tear and shred your tomato. It's like a very fine version of that. Now carrot, I like testing carrots because they're pretty dense and it gives you an idea of how thin the knife is and how well it glides through food. Now there is a little bit of resistance cutting into the carrot because this isn't a laser thin blade. They've intentionally given this a bit more structure up behind the edge so that this knife is going to be a bit more rugged. This is going to hold up better in a professional kitchen than something that's really, really thin. Which is good for me, and that's why I like these knives so much, is because I'm pretty heavy-handed when I cut, and so I don't mind a knife that's a touch thicker if it means it's a lot more durable. Okay, cucumber. So, I'm actually quite impressed. This doesn't stick too much. I thought a really polished blade like this would, the cucumber would adhere to it more. And there's definitely some sticking. But if you're working fast, it releases pretty well. It's not designed for food to fall away from the blade super easily. So all things considered, I think it's pretty great. Now, if you are trained in the more European style of cutting, where you rock the knife more, you're really gonna like this guy. It's got enough curvature that it rocks really well, but the edge is flat enough that it comes down cleanly, so when you're cutting quickly, like cutting that cucumber, stuff doesn't remain attached. You don't have to like follow through that cut to make sure every piece is separated. So it's a good combination of flatness with some curvature. If you find that a lot of Japanese chef's knives don't rock enough for you, you might want to head in this direction. All in all, the diced Gyuto cuts beautifully. To me, it's a little more on the kind of workhorse side of the spectrum, where it's gonna have a bit more of that durability. If you're looking for that knife that just falls through a sweet potato like it's not even there, this isn't it. It is pretty thin, but it's got enough meat up here that it's a more rugged blade. To me, it's a perfect balance. If you do like precision, but you are a little bit more heavy-handed, this is right on the money. The folks at Diced make knives in a really smart way. They cut out blanks of steel, and through a real mastery of grinding steel, they taper these blades down on belt sanders and form a really, really nice thin edge. They do all their woodwork by hand as well, and they're a very talented team of artists. That having been said, some folks are looking for a knife that is hand-forged here in Canada. And like I said earlier, there's a lot of people doing this here in Canada, but a lot of them have very limited production. For most people, it's a hobby, it's a side hustle. It is something that is tough to make into your full-time job. And a lot of the people that do focus more on hunting knives or European-style chef's knives. Now this young man is Hudson Torren. And when I say young, he's like 22 right now. He has been blacksmithing since he was a teenager. Like many young folks, he got his passion from watching Forged in Fire and wanted to become a knife maker, and he has followed through on that dream. He started coming into our shops about 4 years ago with the express mission of refining his knife making. He would bring us blades, and he would ask us to teach him how to make them cut like a Japanese knife. We would test them out, cut with them a bit, give him some feedback. He'd go back to his workshop, which is his mom's garage for the time being, and he would refine it. And after many, many, many iterations and about 3 years of coming in, he brought us something that seriously blew us away. So we started selling his knives in very small quantities because he is a smaller knife maker. And in the last year or so, he's really blown up online. People who are big fans of Japanese kitchen knives have started to really recognize his work as phenomenal, some of the best out there. He's extremely dedicated to his craft, and his work shows his passion. I own a knife from him as well, and it's phenomenal. It blows me away. He's hammered out in the middle of the knife to create a little bit of a hollow spot with the goal of helping food fall away from the blade better. He hammers them out, mostly just using the power of his right arm. These are about as handmade as it gets. And then he grinds them all by hand, by himself. He does his heat treatment, he does everything from scratch. I'm gonna shut up and cut with it now. Yeah, nice. All right away, because he grinds them down to a thinner point, these glide really nicely through this carrot. There's still just a little bit of steel behind the edge, so they're not the thinnest knives I've ever cut with. And again, I prefer that. I find some knives to be too thin for me, and so I like knives that have just a bit of rigidity behind the edge. I know I'm getting into nerd territory here, so if you're just an average person who is here for the Canadian-made products, you're probably confused by what I'm saying. Basically, they cut really well, but they don't feel flimsy when they hit the cutting board. They rock really nicely, good curvature to the blade. It doesn't curve a huge amount, but it's enough to create a nice rocking surface. Bites into that tomato really well. He intentionally doesn't polish them too much because he wants them to have that little extra bit of bite. He wants his edges to last longer. Nice. Yeah, food definitely releases better from the Hudson knife, and that little bit of hollow hammering that he's done really, really helps with that. Okay, so I have used both of these knives pretty extensively to cut at home. This guy I'm gonna use if I'm being a little bit more careful because it is a touch more thin. The diced, God forbid I ever go back to working in restaurants, this would be the knife I bring with me. It's something that if another cook grabbed my knife and used it, I probably wouldn't scream. Overall, it functions beautifully. This is a little more on the workhorse side. This is a little bit thinner, a little bit smoother when it cuts through those dense vegetables, but they're both phenomenal. We're extremely proud to carry both of these, and we're very happy to welcome them to our stores. We, like I said, have been carrying Canadian-made goods for almost 20 years. So I want to go over some of my favorite brands real quick that you might be interested in. First up, we have Larchwood Canada. If you are looking for the best of the best when it comes to cutting boards, this is it. These are made in Cape Breton. They're made from end grain wood, which means you're cutting with the fibers of the wood, which is the best for your knife. And they also last the longest. While we're on the topic of woodwork, these folks are Little Deer. Little Deer is a family-run farm and wood shop in Quebec. They've been making incredible spoons and spatulas out of wood for decades. They're very focused on living in harmony with nature, so all their practices are very sustainable. They use all their scrap in their vegetable gardens, which is where they make all the food that they feed their family with. They're pretty cool, and if you're looking for a wooden spoon, doesn't get any better than this. Another great wood-based company is Sticks and Boards. Based in the aptly named town of Morewood, Ontario, Sticks and Boards they started off as a furniture business, and they were using their offcuts to make stuff for kitchens, cutting boards and knife racks and that kind of stuff. And it took off so much, especially with us in the past 5 years, that they had to expand their business and take it seriously. They make these really nice knife display stands, and they make some nice little sushi plates as well. Beaugrain, made by Guillaume Garreau in Quebec, he makes knife magnets. It's the same one we use on the wall over here. It's a really smart design. They've got a steel bar in the back that you screw onto the wall, and then the board magnetically adheres to that. They can be put onto tile with double-sided tape, or they can be put into drywall. Definitely recommend supporting these guys. If you got wooden products, you gotta take care of them. Cosmos Beeswax is yet another Canadian heritage brand, been around decades. This is a blend of beeswax and mineral oil, and if you need to moisturize wooden spoons, knife magnets, cutting boards, knife handles, literally any unfinished wood product, Clapham's is the way to go. We also have some stuff made here in Calgary by All Things Jill. We've got a pan seasoning stick. It's got cold pressed canola oil and some beeswax to give you the best possible seasoning on your pans, and a coconut oil board wax if you're looking to avoid petroleum products. Nordquist spatulas. This guy's a knife maker, and while we haven't been able to carry his knives yet, he makes this super thin carbon steel spatula with a brass handle. If you love fancy kitchen gear, you need one of these. Horace and Jasper, these folks are good friends of mine. They make us these canvas knife rolls. They do beautiful leather work. You can check them out on their website, and you can grab their knife rolls at knifeware.com. Medium Rare, Chef Apparel. We carry their aprons. They're mostly made here in Calgary, Alberta. And we also carry Search and Rescue Denim, aprons made in Vancouver. Our stickers are made in Canada, like this one that says, "Have a Knife Day," coming soon. And we work with Canadian presses to make our books, The Knife Nerd Guide to Japanese Knives. It tells the stories and the tales of the folks that make our knives, with a little bit of steel knowledge and nerdy stuff in there as well. And the Knifeware Cook's Notebook. Every professional chef and home cook needs one of these. You can find all of our Canadian-made products in the collection link below. Stay tuned on our social media, our mailing list, our YouTube, our TikTok, etc. We're gonna be telling stories of all of these folks over the next month. You can find all of these goods in our stores in Toronto, Ottawa, Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton. And you can find them online at knifeware.com. If there's a Canadian brand you think we should carry, let us know in the comments below, or a knife maker you think we should be working with. There's lots of good ones in Canada, so if you've got somebody that you recommend, give them a mention down below. We'll check them out, and who knows, maybe you'll see them in a future video. All right, take off, hosers. I'm Leroy, he's Leroy behind the camera. There's always something to do. All right, Jacob, I gotta go hack a dart, hey? Smokes, let's go, come on.